But I always tell all of my friends who are journalists, and I know a lot of people who are journalists, I say, listen to me. When you do an interview with somebody and you honor what they say and you honor what you know, we never forget that. Just like I will never forget the guy who added the question, ever.
Yeah,
his name will never leave my mind.
Uh-huh.
When it's someone like, you've interviewed me before, I can't talk all of a sudden. You remember those people. And at the end of the day, those people are who you come back to when something is sensitive because you trust them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, just speaking for myself, I'm trying to give a platform for artists to talk, just be themselves, talk about their art, talk about their life, talk about all of this. That's my whole point, and I thought that's the way it was done, but I guess not.
It's very unfortunate. I remember, speaking of the National Enquirer, I remember when I produced a tour in 2006, and it was Delta Burke's. I produced her LA stage debut, and then I produced her first national tour, and we were playing Nashville. And she and Leslie Jordan, who you guys may know from Will and Grace and Sordid Lives and many other things, they were scheduled to be on the morning news in Nashville. Now, Leslie's from right outside of Nashville. He had just won the Emmy for Will and Grace. Delta Burke is a Southern icon, TV icon. The icon list goes on and on. So the Nashville News booked him for the morning show. And it was for a play called Southern Baptist Sissies, which is about 4 young gay boys in the Baptist church and their struggle dealing with reconciling their sexuality with their religion.
Been there,
right? Well, I guess whomever booked them didn't have the final say because 2 days before, our publicist got an email from the producer, and she was, here's the thing, if you're going to be a bigot or homophobic, at least be smart enough not to say that in an email. And what she said in the email was, unfortunately, due to the title and the content and the nature of this play, we cannot have Leslie Jordan and Delta Burke on the news. Well, we, of course, after we fought them...
That's newsworthy right there.
Well, we actually turned it into press for the sake of exposing it. People said it was for ticket sales, but the show had come and gone. Like, there was no monetary motivation for this. And, oh my gosh. And, the National Enquirer or one of those magazines.
Yeah, right.
I was in the grocery store maybe 2 weeks later, and there was Delta Burke's face on the corner, and it said Delta Burke gay scandal. Of course, which makes you think she's a lesbian.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I thought, that's ridiculous. And so I opened it. She's like the straightest woman I've ever known. And then it had a picture of her character and her son in the play, and it talked about what happened in Nashville, but it said that she was crying hysterically and she was devastated. Things that A, never occurred, and B, if they had occurred, no one would have known about it.
Right.
And I just thought, just make up anything you want to make up. And the same thing...
To try to sell the paper.
Yeah, and the same thing happened with Rue. And then I actually was not a victim of that, but I was a victim of that. No, I was right next to somebody. I was at Georgette Jones, who is Tammy Wynette and George Jones' daughter. I was at her wedding maybe 4 years ago, and it was, of course, it was held at the Country Music Hall of Fame in this circle they have with heads of all the country music icons in like bronze. And so her mom was in bronze on one side, and her dad was in bronze on the other, and she's getting married.
Oh my gosh.
And her something borrowed, something
borrowed, something blue, something old, or something new, or something.
I think it was old. In her garter belt, she had her granddaddy's pistol.
Oh.
And I said, girl, you want to get like some press? I was like, we need a picture of that because that's just classic. And so she agreed. I said, but if I'm going to help you get press from this, I want to be standing right beside you in the picture. And so I think Star Magazine ran it. And it was so nice, beautiful picture, cute story. And then all of a sudden they said, and George Jones was not there because he was upset that she was marrying someone who wasn't American.
Oh.
Completely not the reason he wasn't there. No one knew the reason except for her immediate friends and family, and that was far, far, far from the reason. And she wasn't upset. She was just like we all get. It's sort of like, why wasn't the original story enough? Why wasn't just saying, but her father didn't attend enough? Why do you have to add layers of things that aren't true?
Exactly.
Because what happens to me sometimes, and I know it has to happen for people who are much bigger celebrities than I am, is that the people that, let's say that her dad read Star magazine, he would think, well, did she tell him that? Your friends don't know how it works, and they take things very personally. So I'm very cautious if I talk about people. I've had people I work with who I not always talk about my directors, my producers. I love to give credit where credit's due. But sometimes they either don't get mentioned, or sometimes they'll just say his director. And I've had people get really upset with me.
I have too, yeah.
And I said, I don't type the article. All I can do is say it.
Exactly.
And you're lucky I even care, because a lot of celebrities are so narcissistic, they wouldn't even mention you.
Yeah.
But that's not how I operate, and you know that, so don't be mad at me. I said, because what happens then is I will never say your name again.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to deal with this.
But I'm telling you, just there's so much press out there, and once again, like you say, there's so many unscrupulous and people that are just trying to sell their paper or sell a column or this or that they make stuff up. And if you get caught up in that, like trying to, this person said this about me and that one about me, I can see where you just got to let it go. Like you can't take the bad or the good just kind of keep it at arm's length.
That is very true. And I owe my perspective on that to two people, and I'll just thank them now. One is personal. When I first shot Sordid Lives, a series, and I was very good friends with Olivia Newton-John already. I spent Christmases with her, and she's probably one of the most genuinely sweet, kind. She is actually nicer than her image, down to earth. I've never seen her get riled up about anything. She won't say a negative word about anybody, no matter how much wine you give her and how hard you beg. And she taught me a lot about being someone who's in the public eye just by watching her handle situations, and she gave me some of the most golden advice ever. And it's so sad that this advice even needs to be given. And she didn't give it to me because I was not doing it. We were just discussing the TV show debuting, and she said, just promise me you're always going to stay nice, because the nicer you are to everybody going up, the nicer they are to you coming down, and you will come down eventually. And it's not that you're being nice for the sake of bartering some sort of kindness later.
Right.
But, A, you're no better than anyone else just because you're on TV or something. That's a ludicrous mentality. But you should be nice to everyone. I believe that.
I agree.
But a lot of people get a little bit of fame, and I always call it your freshman year of fame, when it goes to your head. And it went to my head for a minute, too. I can't ever say it didn't.
Well, I mean, that would be big. It would be overwhelming. It would be you're entering the unknown.
Yeah, and all of a sudden people you don't know are saying they love you, and it's just kind of like, it's a lot to take in and understand what it means. And then the other person I don't know personally, I said hi to her at a party once, but that doesn't mean I know her, is Madonna. And you watch her career and you see, it's like her current record right now, which is out, called Rebel Heart, which in my opinion is probably her best record in 10 or 15 years. Every bit of the media, they love to just try and pull her down because she got so big that it's like they're just waiting for her to fall.
They've got to have something to write about, something to sell.
Negative. Exactly. It's like, they can't celebrate that she's 56 and still, she was at the Tidal launch event, the new hi-fi streaming service that Jay-Z announced a few days ago, which I'm actually, as an artist, a part of.
Oh, nice.
My music's on Tidal, and I love it because, back up. So Madonna was at the launch event with the biggest stars in music: Rihanna, Rihanna, Nicki Minaj, Usher,
nice,
Kanye West, Beyonce. It was just like 12 of the biggest names in music. And after the event, all the talk was about Madonna. Why? Because they all took turns signing this sort of. They also are all part owners. They took turns signing this document on a plain table in front of the audience. And Madonna walked up to it and threw her right leg over the table and signed it. And it was all you saw on the news the next day. Absolutely. She knows how to do something to, even like that. And she walked back.
Just signing a paper. She
knew, I'm going to make this pop. And as she walked back, she was standing between Rihanna and Nicki Minaj. Rihanna was like cupping her face and just smiling like, oh my God. But I saw that. And that's when I think I actually read her saying this.
I know what you mean.
Apologize, people. My brain, I must have left it in Florida. She talked about, at one point, and if she didn't, I'm just making that up, and I've learned it from her, is that you really have to distance yourself from all the feedback.
Yeah.
Not just the negative.
Yep.
Because the positive isn't really real for you either. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I look up to a lot of people. I study the way other celebrities, their existence.
That's the way to do it.
And so when I have these lulls, or when I was going through my divorce and people were being nasty, the ones that were nasty were being nasty, I said, A, it's part of the gig. Mm-hmm. B, they just want to sell the story. And C, I'm not attached to that.
Yeah.
And it was really easy to people think it had to be so hard for me. And I say, no, actually what was hard for me was when we lost our home to foreclosure, because that was the first time I ever tasted the claws coming out from the community, because that was all over everywhere too. Mm-hmm. And that was incredibly difficult, because everywhere you went, people knew, and it was just so embarrassing. And I had never experienced that type of personal negativity. Mm-hmm. People assuming things about how you spend your money and assuming things about anything. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got to my divorce some 3 years later, something, I was like, you know what? Talk all you want. Say what you want to say, because it's not going to affect me this time. Mm-hmm. And it didn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, very good. Very good. You're learning, and always remain open to learning and growing, and just keep on keeping on. Well, we're going to take a quick break and take a listen to Love Story, which we'll come back and talk about that, because he did the Love Story Project with my guest, Jason Dottley. Yay!